Hello everybody, welcome to a new tutorial from Sound for More. It's Leo speaking. Today I have the pleasure to introduce you to Splat-to-Clat, a fantastic new urban drum Rompler. Indeed, it's a Rompler as it uses or have access to a large number of samples, in this case 10,000 drum samples, so it's very rich, and it has quite an extensive library as well when it comes to chops, MIDI files and drum kits, etc. So as you will see in a moment. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank you, Gospel Musician, for giving me the opportunity to review the app. Okay, we are inside AUM, so that gives you straight away a clue that it is an AUV3 compliance application. And as you can see, there are two versions already shown on the screen. There is the AU version, but also the interrupt audio as well, if you need to. And it works, of course, standalone. Now let's load these up, and there it is. Let's open it and maximize it. As you can see, it's a typical drum machine type of user interface. You have a number of drums pads here. So you have, which are split in rows. So you have 4 for each row. You have 3 rows, so 12 pads. And then they're organized in banks. So this is bank A, then bank B and C as well. And you can see that each pad has a note which is associated with it. So in this case, C3 for the first pad, 1A, and then it goes up to bank C to B5. Okay? Each of the pad, so let's go back to bank A first. Each of the pad, as I mentioned, has a number and has also a note which can be changed in terms of how to trigger that pad, for example, using an external keyboard controller or another controller or application, like in this case using AUM, you can use another MIDI processor to trigger each of the pads. And so that's why you have that note name as well. Underneath, you see here for each pad, it says no sound. That is where we will load the appropriate sample in a moment. Then you have a symbol here which shows you if it is in a loop or not, i.e. the sample is repeated in a loop. And then here you have a spanner which gives you access to additional settings. You have volumes and pan as well, and then mute and solo selection as well. Pretty straightforward. Up here, as I mentioned, you have 3 banks, A, B, C, which gives you access to additional drum pads. Then you have a master volume control. The name of the application, the version, and then a spanner here for the settings. So you click on it, and then you have a number of settings you can change. Actually, the first time that you install it, it might actually direct you to the download tab, which is this one, where you can select where to save the sample, which can be on your iPad or an external SSD as well. And then you will see 3 factory set of libraries that you can download. So a factory kit, factory loops, and factory chops. And you can see the sizes of each one of them. And then you will download them, install them. And of course, you have option to delete them if you need in the future to save space, repair them, etc., etc. You have access to setting for channels to be used, additional settings in terms of medium program change. Pretty explanatory. I'm not going to go through them, all of them one by one, but if you need to, of course, just leave a comment on the video, and then of course you can adjust the tuning. So you can do micro tuning adjustment, you can transpose by semitone, octave. You can change the velocity curve as well. Moving again to the right hand side of the screen, you have some visual for the tempo, which in this case will come from AUM being hosted. Then you have the signature, which will change based on the preset that you have loaded, and the number of bars in terms of length, and then the position where you are at while you are playing. So on the left-hand side, you have then some controls, typical navigation controls or play controls, so where you can go back at the beginning, stop playing, move to the next, and then this icon here is to actually have access to your hardware grooving machines. I'll show you that in a moment. Then here where it says none, here is where you can load a MIDI files, which will be played against, for example, drum kit or against a chop as well. You can change here, you can import as well. But I'll show you that in a moment. So you click on the X, of course, to close the window. At the top here, you have a selection of preset. You can go to the previous preset with this arrow, the next preset here. And then you can click on Init here, which gives you access to a window where you can select a preset. Or, of course, you can click on the save icon here. And it will ask you to choose a library, a bank, and then to type a preset name in order to save that preset. So pretty straightforward so far. So let's click on Init. And let's have a view. Let's see how we can load presets. As I mentioned a moment ago, presets are organized within libraries, banks, and banks as well. You start from a library here on the left-hand side, and you can create, of course, a new library. But if you don't do that, of course, you have user presets. You can see as soon as you click on one library, your banks are changing. In this case, it says autosave because you had saved previous versions automatically. There is also user bank. In this case, I created myself an init preset. And again, you can create a new bank, you can add preset, and you can organize also presets onto favorite as well. You have next access to an additional library, which is called Factory Kit, which you have downloaded. And then you choose a bank, like in this case, I don't know, starter bit, and then you choose your preset. And it's as simple as that. You click on a preset and it will load automatically, and then you close the window and you find that the samples are loaded against the appropriate or corresponding pads. And you also find that each drum kit will come with a MIDI file. Indeed, if I click here, you will see a MIDI file which is associated with that kit. But again, I can deselect that like so and import a new one, or can still activate that. And the interesting thing, of course, is if I click play now, of course, it will play that MIDI file using the samples which have been loaded against these first 5 pads in this particular case. So let's go back again to the list of presets. So from this list, you cannot load directly the loops, although you have an initialized loop, and you have one example of it, which will load loops directly for the pads, as you can see. And you can see also that the loop icon is active, which means it will continue to loop. Okay. Going back to the preset views, at the bottom here, the fourth library is the factory chops, which of course are very different from factory kit. So let's choose one bank, and then let's choose one like so, close. And you will see now that they're chops, right? They're not part of a kit. So you still have a MIDI file associated with it, which will play them in sequence. Okay, let's try. In this case, you can see it goes beyond bank A, so there are some pads with samples loaded as well in bank B. Okay, so let's go back to user presets, user bank, and choose init. This is an init preset which I created, which practically is blank, like the first init configuration when you start Splat-to-Clat. Let's click and hold on where it says no sound on the first pad, okay, and it gives you access now to load, for example, chops or maybe a loop as well. Okay, so that's how you do it. Or you can go to the kit, select kit, kicks as in this case the bank, and then choose a sound. And of course it will play the sound for you. Okay, when you finish, click X, and you see that sample which has been loaded there. And if you click on the pad, of course, the sample will play. Now, let's click and hold where it says, where it shows here the spanner icon. You have this new menu. Okay, let's start from the very bottom. Clear all will clear all the pads. So you click OK, and it will empty all of the pads. like so. Unfortunately, you don't have an undo or redo buttons, so you need to go back and select again one sample to load it back inside that pod. Click again and hold. You can clear that specific pod. Simple, I'm not going to show you again. Then you can change the color, for example, purple, like so. You can decide to change the audio output. In this case, is stereo output. You can have a mono. You can choose different output, etc., etc. You can associate a MIDI note for muting. You can also change the note which has been assigned to play that particular pad. Okay, let me show you how that works. So let's link the AUM keyboard and let's press C4 here. We'll play that particular pad. Okay, so let's say I press C3 here, it doesn't play anything. So click and hold here, click note assignment, and then press C3 here, which corresponds to SH2 inside the application. So I press C3 now on the AUM keyboard, and I remapped it. Okay, so that's nice and simple. And let's go back as it was, and let's hide the keyboard now. Okay, moving on. So you have also play mode. You can play normal, one shot. You can have it in a loop. So let me show you the loop because it's straightforward. You can see the icon. It goes in a loop and then you click and hold. And it will play in a loop, right? Or you can change it to heavy reverse, for example, which is really nice. And I'm sure you can use that in some of your rhythms, drum patterns, right? Oops, so we go back to that in a second. So let's set it to one shot for now. The other thing as well which you can do is to apply effects, and this is really nice, absolutely nice. It gives you this view where you can choose 5 effects. You can have them as insert effects, or you can have them as global or master as well. So let's start with insert effects. We'll play around, of course. Up here, you can see the 12 pads, which you can assign them to, right? Click and hold on effects, and then you choose. So, for example, reverb. Let's choose Enverb. Look how nice. You have a really nice interfaces for each of the effects. Really, really nice. So let's click on the X, and let's play. Really nice indeed. Oh, let's remove the reverse. Really, really, really nice. And you can continue like that. You can add other effects as much as you like, right? Yeah, that is a bit of a pain sometimes. If you click and hold for too long, you go straight away on the first selection, which is control, which I will show you in a moment. But let's go back to effect. And you can add in this way another one. So you can go inside and say add a delay and so on and so forth. As I said, you have a lot of effects. Look, you have phasing, flanger, auto wah, lot of different reverbs. The cloud verb is really big. You have distortion and drive. You have a rotary effect, auto pan and the stereo. You have equalizer as well, 311 bands. Amp, simulation, really nice. The tuning as well. You can do some detuning. Dynamics, compressor, and master limiter. And you have a master limiter actually on the master. And then you have some miscellaneous like the talk box, which is quite clever actually. Let's try it. Let's see if I can see what it sounds like. It's quite nice, isn't it? It gives you that talk box effect that's more humanized effect based on the sample that you are playing. Really, really, really nice. But of course, you can do much more than that. So let's go to the second part here and let's load something different. Let's go to miscellaneous here. And then let's choose a bell. That's fine, that one. Let's click and hold here again on the spanner, and this time let's go purposely inside controls. Now here, you see at the bottom still your pads from 1 to 12, and also the banks here, which you can choose. And then you have your sample name here. You can activate or not the sound here. And then you have a number of different tabs. The first one is for sound. I'm going to give you an overview. I'm not going to go through all the controls one by one, but hopefully they're self-explanatory and it will be very easy for you to figure them out. But you can adjust volume, gain, pan, the semitone, sorry, you can adjust the pitch and semitone, scent. You have option for mute, solo. You can go up and down octaves. This voices is to stack up the number of voices, and then you can detune them as well and change the spread. And when you see this arrow, it means you have additional option. Click on them. You can have access to blending instead of spread, and also you can have access to a second detuning. Okay. Second tab is effectively your ADSR, but it's a little bit better than that. You have also hold here. So you have your attack, hold, decrease, sustain, and release. You can change the curvature here and the amount as well in terms of how the velocity impacts that ADSR. And you can change the velocity curves or logarithms here as well. Then you have control here. And here you can change the setting for the modulation wheel. You can set it to glide, change the tuning. This one is quite interesting because you can set it actually to be behind, ahead, or both against the beat which is being playing. And then, of course, you can change how much there. Then you can change the coloring as well of the sound, and you can also affect that by modulation in terms of velocity. You can change the velocity maximum and minimum value there as well. You have a tab here for your filter, so you can, for example, apply, I don't know, an high-pass filter. You enable it. Then you adjust a little bit the settings. Let's try. Something like there. Maybe a low pass filter. Oh, let me check. Maybe I was doing it against the wrong pad. Yes, I was. So let's do this. And let's go to control again. I was doing it against the second one, which of course I cannot see unless I move the window. That is why it was not changing the sound. So let's go to high pass filter. Right. Maybe like that. And then you can adjust the attack. And now you can start to hear that there is that envelope based on different level of attack. And of course, you're changing the cutoff here. And remember, you can change the type of filter up here. In this case, I was using a high pass filter. Again, you can change the envelope amount, okay, which will impact the filter also based on velocity. You have your resonance effect there as well. And of course, you can activate or deactivate it. And the last tab is about modulation wheel, but you can also set it to do this automatically. So you click on here to activate it. You can say, you can go by pitch or filter. Let's use pitch, which is the simplest one. You can choose which type of waveform. Then you set the rate and then the depth. And then within the depth, which is your maximum value, you set how much. Okay, like so. Changing the rate. Change the depth. Really nice indeed. Of course, you have the frequency there, and then you can also sync it to beats per minute. Okay, that is just a quick overview of some of the controls that you have inside Splat-to-Clat. So, as I said, it's quite unique, nice and simple to use drum Rompler with tens of thousands of drum sounds. And indeed, let's play a couple of more before I close with the video. So, I don't know, let's go to Kit, Starter. Let's try this Afro here and click play. One thing I haven't shown is the groovy machine here, so let's try it. 71. And you can hear the tempo, the grooving has actually changed. Okay, so just experiment with some of these. There's a huge selection. Of course, you don't need to use the MIDI. Here, remember, you could import one. For example, when I created a previous one using Adobe, I used Helium, or in some cases I used also Atom Roll. So let's go, for example, to user bank init, and then let's load here a synth. Let's go to factory kit. Then let's go. Yeah, that's fine. Then let's import something I previously created. You can import a folder and a file. This one, okay, is active, and let's click play. Just plain simply the first part, but it's just to demonstrate that you can create your own MIDI files and then import it. And of course you can change it. You click and hold, you have an option like renaming it, exporting the file as well if you want to change a pre-existing one and then re-importing it back as well. So there's a lot of different options of what you can do. And remember, a response to MIDI. So if you create a MIDI processor, you can have, for example, something like Atom Piano Roll 2 running there, or you can have Helium, or you can have, for example, even something like Step Bud from Gem. Okay, you link the two, something like that. And then you remove these, you make sure you don't have any MIDI file active, right? And then you go inside the Step Bud, you make some changes here, and you click play. So in this case, it's just playing quarter of note, which will go out at C4, which will hit the particular pad here, okay, where we have the kick drum. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Hopefully you found this introductory tutorial useful, and as always, see you next time. Thank you. Bye.